it just shows you that even if you don't work together any longer, you still dress the same. Like, you just don't ever lose that. It is my privilege today to announce, introduce Roberta Bobby English. Roberta English is the Chief Executive Officer of Wildlife Prairie Park, which is a 2,000-acre zoological preserve, lodging, and recreation center. And obviously, she is the best boss, motivator, and mentor that I could ever ask for. She came to the park with a focus on developing and strengthening relationships throughout the community and strengthening and diversifying the park's multiple resource streams. Roberta has an incredible passion for creating workspaces with positive culture, diversity of thought, and where employees are developed and able to reach their fullest potential. She has a passion for building a stronger community in Peoria, which is why she thoroughly enjoys serving the Peoria Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. She is a proud Rotarian, albeit she is from the other club in Peoria. She currently serves as board director for the Business Political Action Committee of Central Illinois and the Greater Peoria, Illinois chapter of Jack and Jill of America. Roberta was formerly the COO at Neighborhood House, where she spent 6 years serving children and the elderly of Central Illinois. Prior to a career in nonprofits, she spent 10 years as a television reporter, anchor, and producer in the following cities: Kansas City, Dayton, Fort Smith, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. She holds both bachelor's and master's degrees from Northwestern University. And on a personal note, she has 3 children that keep her on her toes, an amazing mama, and she loves outdoor adventures, though not if they include actual camping or snakes. Ask us how we know. We share a deep appreciation for charcuterie lunches, and many an idea has been hatched and life problems solved around our conference table at lunch, mostly with snacks. Her love of TikTok is contagious. She's a professional skid steer operator, and I have proof coming later. And she's the one person I know that I can email or text at 1 a.m. and she doesn't panic, but she's also already thought of that idea and is halfway down the road. So I am thrilled to introduce my friend, mentor, and Chief Executive Officer Roberta Bobby English. Kelly, it is so contagious. Bobby English with an update on Wildlife Prairie Park.
Oh, thanks. Jen bought me this today, so we'll see how it goes. But thanks for having me, and this is the truth. I had my polka dot dress out, hanging up, and I was thinking, I wonder if I wear this, will Becky wear her polka dot dress? Because we did that so many times, and then I was like, oh, I'll just wear something different. Then I got to work, and she had on the polka dot dress. I was really, really mad. So, but great minds think alike, and it's wonderful to have Jen with me at Wildlife Prairie Park. So I just wanted to share some things that we've been working on at the park. What's it like? It's great, of course. Uh-oh, point there. So just in case you didn't know, Wildlife Prairie Park was started from a man and his wife and their dream to build a fantastic original wildlife park in the entire United States. And Bill and Hazel Rutherford, they started working on this in the late 60s, gathering all the land through the Forest Park Foundation and doing all the work there and planning what kind of animals would be there, and ultimately deciding that this was going to be a park that featured animals that were native to this area of the country, which makes us very unique from any other zoo that you might go to, because we're only going to have animals that are native to this area. So the park opened in 1978, and we were founded on 3 pillars, which are conservation, education, and recreation. And in that time, we've grown quite a bit. We have now over 150 animals, 60 different species. We've got 4 museums, including a pioneer farm, an old schoolhouse, a train museum, and a visitor center museum. We've got 25 miles of hiking and biking. We've got a famous train that people love, a giant death slide that people also love, and also a professional championship world disc golf course. We're actually hosting the Worlds next year for the disc golf. We also have 7 lakes for fishing and canoeing, and we also have luxury cabins, as well as unique lodging and banquet and wedding facilities. So it's a great place. There's lots to do, and the best part of this, it's a bargain. We are the best deal in town by far. A membership to Wildlife Prairie Park is $85, and you get to do all those things and discounts on various things. And in the picture you see our lake, of one of the newly renovated lakes that just got finished last week, and as well as our train and our slide, which are super, super popular. Because we have all these great things, a lot of families tell me that Wildlife Prairie Park is part of their tradition. And these two families, you know, I would see coming out, moms coming out with their kids from early ages, and so it's become something that they do with their kids for a lifetime. And the two little girls that are learning to fish, it was their first time out fishing. They're with their dad and their grandma because their dad grew up fishing at Wildlife Prairie Park because his parents brought him out there, and now he's got two little girls, no boys, and he's teaching his daughters how to fish, and they were loving it. And they also told me, I stopped to talk to them, and they were like, yeah, after COVID, we were the first people to stay in your brand new legacy cabins because we love Wildlife Prairie Park, and we wanted to be first. And so it just, those kind of stories that touch me because the families just keep coming back and keep coming back. And a perfect example would be these two families that no longer live in Illinois. The family with the great big group of kids, they grew up in this area and they now live in Iowa. They brought their kids every weekend after school got out to stay in our train cabooses. And their kids are grown and have kids and live all over the place now. And so now they bring their youth group out from Iowa to come over because they want to continue to relive Wildlife Prairie Park and support Wildlife Prairie Park and teach these kids who don't live around here and don't know anything about this wonderful gem that we have. And it's really powerful. So the family on the other side, the Phillips, they also don't live here anymore. They live in Indiana. They're with their daughter and their grandkids who live in Oregon. They meet regularly, at least twice a year, at the park. And this is it's like their central way that they remember their family and the memories. And the Phillips, they were so connected to us that they helped us build our legacy cabins, and that's one of them, and one of the cabins bears their name. So it's a powerful place. Power also in the fact that it's healing. We have so many different kinds of activities. We appeal to a lot of people. You can see the mountain bikers, and those are actually the youth mountain bikers right before a race, but also having yoga at the park is relaxing for people, and also lots of fishing, which this area of the park really saw an uptick during COVID because people were coming outside. There wasn't, a whole lot to do indoors, and this was a safe place to be. And so it was really great to see a lot of people out. Because people like it, we've managed to win some awards over the years. We continue to win the Best Hidden Gem Award and Family Fun, and last year we won a Small Business Award from the Peoria Chamber of Commerce. So as great as it is, and just like any business, especially a nonprofit, there are many challenges at Wildlife Prairie Park. And I would say that ours pretty much center around our size and our scope, our small staff, and the fact that we have multiple revenue streams. So this is what most people think of as Wildlife Prairie Park. They think about the animal trails and a few of the banquet facilities pretty much centrally located. But this is Wildlife Prairie Park. 2,000 acres takes up a whole lot more than just the animal trail. So it's a lot to keep up with. And it's a lot to learn. And I remember when I came to the park, someone said, you're going to be here a year or two and you're still not going to have seen the whole park and you're not going to know everything about this park. And they're absolutely right, because I'm coming up on 2 years. And yes, there are pieces that I have not seen or I can't get to on a regular basis. Our second challenge is that we have a small but mighty staff. We generally have under 50 employees, and we're a little bit higher in the summer. We have several employees that live at the park, and we rely on volunteers. And in 2020, we had 260 volunteers, which is half of what we normally have. We usually are in the 500 range. So it can be challenging when you don't have enough bodies. We also are challenged because there's just a lot of revenue streams. In addition to admissions, membership, we have lodging, which is now a huge revenue stream for us, weddings and private events. We have retail, the educational programs, as well as things that normal nonprofits have, donations, grants, and we also have agriculture. So I thought I'd dive a little bit into that because a lot of people don't know about our agriculture. So We are a working farm. And I love these pictures because Wildlife Prairie Park has definitely stretched me as a leader because I had to learn to do some things that I never did before. Even the first month, you would think I'd be there learning about animals or something, but that is not what I did for the first month. We were deep into problems with farmers and farming contracts, and I had to learn farming. And, it's been a journey. We have soybean and corn, hay. We also now do youth hunting on some of our land, and we have a significant bison and elk trade. And I really do drive that skid steer. I'm not posing. I drove the skid steer. It's fun. And also dump truck. So I love that. It's like I would think I would never do that, but I'm like, wow, I'm really learning to do this because we are a working farm. So we also, because we have bison and elk and they have calves, we sell the calves. And we are working on growing our herd and also creating a market for meat. And I wanted to play a little video just to give you an insight to what we do. So that's just like a YouTube. But that's just an insight into a lot of the things that we're working on at the park. And a couple times a year, we're working on managing our herds. Obviously, they take up a lot of space. There's a lot of fencing that needs to be repaired at all times. And so it makes it's a challenging but fun place to be. So everybody experienced 2020, and certainly just like any other place, COVID impacted our revenue. There were good positives though, because we still managed, even though during a pandemic, we still managed to get our cabins built and open by July. And that really helped generate additional revenues for the park. So now an area that used to be 11% of our operating revenue, which is lodging, is now almost 23% of our operating revenue. We also had memberships almost double. When I got to the park, we had 2,200 members. And I remember I'm good friends with John Morris, and I knew he had 4,000 members. And I was like, oh, maybe I can get 4,000 members by, within 4 years or something. boom, we have 3,600 members. And so we were really benefited by being an outdoor place where you could recreate and enjoy your families and be a healing place during a hard time. We also generated some grant funding, which the park had not focused on in the past. So it's become a new area that we've had some success. The not so positives, of course, we were closed for 6 weeks. And then when we opened, we were only open for members for 2 months. The weddings and the catered events, oh, that was a disaster. You just have no idea what brides are like. It was a bad year. And they're scared again, so now they're calling and emailing. But, so that was a lot of lots of revenue lost. And also, most of our special events were canceled, except for we did a scary but safe park, but it was really a modified version of what we did and only brought in about a third of what we normally get. And our food sales and our retail was closed all year. So it was a challenge, but we made it because we still, weren't too far off of where we've been before, and just kind of pushing forward. So our goals for the park is to get a little bit of balance, which is what we haven't had. We're building our operational cash flow by really focusing on the different revenue streams and trying to optimize them. So we have, number one, good leadership. We have to have people leading these revenue streams that know what they're doing. And then to really have a strong finance department that helps people optimize the revenue. But in addition to that, we've added in grants. Obviously, our donations have been strong. That's how we survive. We don't get state funding, federal funding, any of that like many other zoos. So we've always had strong donations. But one of the things that we're focused on in the future is building an endowment. And, we need a $10 million endowment to, really keep Wildlife Prairie Park in this community for the future. So after we made it through COVID and, we're like getting ready for the season, which is normally the season starts in like April, but by mid-March we were slammed, which was great. I mean, we were packed mid-March through like last weekend. But we were thinking, okay, we made it. We did a successful capital campaign 2 years ago. We raised $2.4 million. We built these awesome cabins. So now we have more revenue. What are we going to do now? Well, it's time to do another strategic plan. And something amazing happened. We got Jen Funk. She joined the park from Bradley, and she became our Director of Development and Marketing. And Jen jumped right in, and we started our strategic planning process, and she's going to tell you a little bit about that.
So the first project I was able to really jump in was our strategic plan. We lived and breathed this for more time than I even can remember. We really focused on where do we want to be in the next 5 years? How do we need to do that? And who do we need at our table? So what we did is we brought together several different committees. We had a strategic planning session on June 23rd, which, mind you guys, I started March 23rd. So super quick time. We had about 55 friends of the park. We had our board members, we had members of the community, we had donors, we had my college professor, just all of these people around our table to talk about the park. What we did beforehand, any good strategic plan, you resource. And so what we did is we created a survey based on 4 specific areas. We looked at our lodging, we looked at our recreation, we looked at our education, and then at our banquet wedding facilities. And so we drafted about a 20-question survey and asked all of these really hard questions that you don't always want the answers to, but if you don't ask those hard questions, you don't get better. And so we really dove into some of this research. We synthesized it. I created all kinds of cool graphs because that's just how my brain works. And I was really excited. We sent this to about 10,000 people, and I got a return rate of over 600. Anybody that's done one of these before knows that that's incredibly successful. And I only had to send out like 3 emails begging people to give me responses. And so I was actually super pumped about this. And so what we did is with some awesome help from partners of ours from PwC, we created these really cool word pops. And so what we did is we looked at what people said we did well and what people said that we needed a little bit of help on. And so we synthesized everything and started talking about these. So in the program, we broke into 3 breakout committees and focused on lodging, recreation, and our education department. And so this is what our result was. In lodging, we talked about, okay, what's next for us? We have camping, we have cabooses, we have cabins, we have grain bins, we have all kinds of really cool things. But what else do we need? We need glamping. Not everyone wants to throw up a tent and, camp without a bathroom. We understand. We also want to look at RVs. Again, we have 2,000 acres that we can use. So what's next? Talking about enhanced tent camping options. I mean, if you could just pull into the park and everything was already set up for you, that'd be pretty cool, right? Also, looking at what infrastructure needs we have. What do we have that needs updated and what do we need to put in? And additional activities. What brings people to the park to stay in all 4 seasons? So our activities and attractions group said, cool, we'll take that on. So they loved the idea of guided behind the scenes tours. They loved low ropes and a zip line. Sounds pretty fun. We have also had somebody come in and present to us about laser tag, which I think would be an awesome Rotary bonding experience. So I'll let y'all know when we get it set up. We need some sort of water feature. If you guys have been out to see us in August, you know that the animals hide, you know that it's a little hot. So we're looking at a splash pad. We're also looking at swimming options. Mind you, they are lakes and there are fish in the lakes, so be prepared. We're looking at the addition of more water sports. So you right now can bring your own kayak. You can bring your own boat with a trolling motor. But how awesome would it be if we had those on site for you? Also paddle boarding, all of the crazy things that people like to do. We're looking at adding archery, clay shooting, and potentially axe throwing, but we do need to talk to our liability guy about that first. And then looking at education, our third group, talking about year-round field trip opportunities, high school job shadowing opportunities, especially with us having a high school on site, but not just your animal keepers. Why can't we have somebody come in and follow our CFO or talk about marketing or our CEO? So looking at ways that we can expand that opportunity and footprint. We have, I don't know if many of you knew this, we do have a small movie theater in our visitor center museum. It's an awesome opportunity for us to refurbish that and then selfishly plug really cool marketing videos about the park. Looking at redesigning our Boy Scout and Girl Scout programs so we can become that place where people go to get those really hard to earn badges. And obviously, technology upgrade, we know how that goes. So then from there, what we're doing is building our strategic plan and our capital campaign. So in education, we are looking to revitalize our field trips with goals attached to that. How do we update our curriculum, curate the museums, improve our facilities safely? Looking at conservation. So animal enclosures, probably need to update those. Fencing, as Roberta said, fencing is always an issue. If anybody wants to come volunteer, we have 3 amazing board members every Friday that come out and do fencing. We're happy to put you to work. Animal curation, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and habitat conservation. And then in recreation, we are getting ready to, hopefully in the spring, break ground on additional legacy cabins. Again, expanding our camping, water activities, safety, all of that good stuff. And so we have the very energetic goal of launching our next capital campaign in spring of 2022. We're incredibly excited and I think we're on target. So, like I said, curating animals is one of the things that we're looking at doing next. We have created a survey, which will be coming out soon because you guys know surveys are just my favorite. And we're looking at adding animals in different locations of the park. So we're looking at what small animals should we add. We're looking at armadillos, not gonna lie, they look really cool. Flying squirrel, I think that was on the list. My favorite, adding insects. Cool if we don't add those. All kinds of stuff, but then also looking at our large animals. Looking at potentially reinvigorating our wolf pack. Cougars, maybe a wolverine, a moose, bighorn sheep. But one of the things that we need to do before we bring some of these animals in is A, fix enclosures, but B, we have to retire some animals. So right now we have Mackenzie, she's our gray wolf. She's probably my spirit animal because she's a little cranky and likes to sleep all day. But in order for us to bring in a new wolf pack, we have to retire Mackenzie because you cannot bring in a new wolf pack to an existing wolf pack. So it's not as simple as just fundraising to say, hey, let's go buy some cubs. And I've already been told that I don't get to snuggle the babies. I've been told that's a no-no. So there's so much more that goes into this conservation and cultivation than I could have ever dreamed. So I have the privilege of introducing Adrienne. She's our Director of Wildlife and Programming. And she brought a super special friend with her today. I will ask that nobody hoot or holler, and Adrienne will tell you why. But this is Jesse. You might have seen him from my photo. I'm a little obsessed. He's pretty cool. So I'm going to hold this so you can chat.
Use my teacher voice.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. We're going to let her use her teacher voice.
Okay. So this is Jessie, and she is a barn owl. She is 19 years old, so she would be considered a senior owl. Jessie comes to us from the Species Survival Program for barn owls. These guys are in Illinois, but they are in danger. So there's not very many numbers of them. I'm going to show you guys her wing. She's got long, thin wings. Jessie lives on an edge habitat, and so that's the main reason that we don't see as many of them in this state anymore. She needs a habitat where she can be in the woods, but she can also have a nice open field out in front of her. So much like her name, barn owl, they need those old woods, old trees, or an old structure like a barn that they can live in and raise their young. She does not hoot, so she is known as the owl that doesn't give a hoot. Jessie makes a loud scream when she's upset, or she will chatter. I don't know if you guys could hear her back there, but she was laughing and giggling while Jen was talking, and I was trying to get her to be quiet. I'll see if I can get her to chatter with me here again, so you guys can hear that. She hears all kinds of stuff. So you might notice Jessie is really looking around the room, scanning the ceiling above it. Jessie can hear a mouse's heartbeat a football field away under up to 6 inches of snow. So if you can imagine that, imagine collectively how loud all of our heartbeat must sound to her. Her back is supposed to look like tree bark, and her chest and under her wings are white, supposed to look like light filtering through the tree branches. No, we can't touch them. I've worked with Jessie for the last 8 years. She does not like to be touched. Predators don't typically like to be touched, especially our birds of prey. They're used to living on their own, grooming themselves on their own, so they're not a big fan of being touched, even by the keepers to the thing that you do. And you might notice I have this glove on. I don't always have to wear it with Jessie, but it is 3 layers thick of leather. I'm not as worried about her, but some of our other birds have a little bit of a feistier personality, and that protects us from those talons. You guys can see that Jessie's wings are longer than her tail feathers. So that's how we know she's an edge habitat species, because she's got the very long wings to let her get through the season.
How much does she weigh?
Jessie weighs about 3 pounds. So she has very tight feathers against her body, but we have a couple of other owls, like your great horned owls and your barred owls. They look like they'd be heavier, but they're not. They're about the same weight. And that's because they kind of fluff up and they tuck their legs up under them, so they just look a lot bigger than they really are. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if you want pictures, we'll be around later and you can take some photos with her as well. Yeah. She would probably eat a rat, but these guys have been in captivity their whole life, so mainly just mice is her favorite. For the most part, yes. If they are desperate for food, though, you might see them out during the day. Yes. Yes. So this one, she is 19, like I said, and so she is older. So she has the same kind of issues that humans do as we get older. Her vision's getting a little bad, and she does have arthritis. So Jessie used to be part of a flighted program where I could give a command and she'd fly to the back of the room and perch for us. But she can't do that anymore. But she can fly. Barn owls in general will fly, but this one's pretty grounded. We do not. We're not part of the species program, but they are still working on that throughout Illinois. They're low in numbers here, but they're high in numbers almost everywhere else. So they don't have to worry about it in other states. Yes. So she is housed in our Forest Hall Reptile Building, and so she's one of the animal ambassadors. So she does go to programs like this. Almost every field trip, she has met all the students there as well. She has bonded to our staff really well. She's very trusting of us since she doesn't have as good a vision anymore. And so she goes to almost every program we have that would include a bird. So if anybody wants her to attend a program or wants to have a program with her at the park, all you have to do is contact our education department. We're happy to have her there.
I just listed some of the other educational programs we have at the park that Adrian, she leads very well and includes some experiences with Jessie and other animals. And Adrian's going to keep walking around with Jessie, and we're just going to back up and just end with, there's a lot going on at the park, more than we can talk about. We are, as Jen was saying, we've been through our strategic plan and we're working on the details of our capital campaign. And if you want to be a part of the discussion of what you would like to see at Wildlife Prairie Park, if you want to be a part of it, we are doing various dinners over the next couple of months. A few of them have already sold out, but it's on your table, the ones that are available. If you'd like to come and be a part of that conversation, just get in contact with Jen. This is a picture of our legacy, one of our legacy cabins with bison pond and the bison herd in the background. And the great thing about our legacy cabins is that you're that close. That's why we built them. We're trying to educate people, as we do by bringing the owls and other ambassadors out to people, but also just coming to stay at the park. You can be close to the bison or the elk, whoever's coming up to the fence at the time, but it's an experience for the family, and it's certainly something that you can't do anywhere else, and we're just really proud to do it at Wildlife Prairie Park. So thank you for having us, and if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer.
How did the bus program go during the summer?
The adventure track? Oh, yes, the City Link. It went pretty well. Actually, if we were kind of worried in the beginning because the numbers weren't exactly what we hoped, but they were just high enough to extend it because we only planned to do it for 5 Sundays, and I think we ended up doing it for 8 Sundays. So I'm hopeful that we'll just continue to build upon that as more people know about it. But if you didn't know about it, we did a partnership with CityLink, and every Sunday we had bus rides to Wildlife Prairie Park because it's really inaccessible. If you don't have a car, you can't get out there. So we worked together with CityLink and built this pilot program, and we were really, really proud of it. So hopefully it will continue to grow.
What kind of a dollar contribution would you need to start a new cabin?
Well, we generally like to have about 50% light of sight on the cabin, and lumber costs, we spent about $450 per cabin this last time. So lumber costs are a little high right now, so I'd say we probably need somewhere between 3 to 5 to start building again. So that's what we're hoping to gain over the next few months so we can break ground in the spring. 300,000 to 500,000.
So this experience is amazing and unique, as you know. I'm just curious about the attendance data geographically speaking, like from how far are you pulling?
All over the country, I'd say, particularly in lodging, most of the people I'd say don't live around here. When you look at our data from our website, we have, let's say out of the 20,000 hits in a month, 6,000 will be hits from Chicago, 3,000 from Peoria. So, and we see that in the people who are coming to stay. We had 9,000 bookings last last year in 2020, and they were from all over the country. So the more we can get the word out, the better. And we need more cabins. That's also what it is. Because we book up. Kim? The luxury cabins are, and also, yeah, there's quite a few. The only thing that's not available all year long are the cabooses. They do not have heat. They have air conditioning, but they don't have heat. So we shut those down on Halloween.
Doug Huff wanted to know, how do you retire a wolf?
Thanks, Doug. We build a separate enclosure. That's what we're going to be doing for Mackenzie. And we're going to put it off kind of not necessarily in public view, so she has privacy. And we will let her retire there. And then we will upgrade the current wolf enclosure, which just needs some minor modifications, and bring in an entire new pack. But retire does not mean kill them. It means retire them, let them build a retirement den for them and let them age in place. Kind of like Neighborhood House and Meals on Wheels. We want our animals to age in place.
It sounds like you're doing a fabulous job in your team. It seems like it was just a few short years ago, there was some question as to whether Wildlife Prairie Park would continue to exist. What changed in the last 3 to 5 years, other than you and your team, that made that happen?
I would say everything. So I saved this slide for the end in case somebody brings it up. We call these the dark times at Wildlife Prairie Park. But those times really started back in 2000 when the park was transferred to the state. And then Bill Rutherford, our founder, he died in 2006. The state did not take care of the park. That's the park's main problem. We have about $2.5 million of known infrastructure problems, things that we have to raise money for to fix. And so that was challenging. So, I mean, there's been various leaders at the park, but, now that I'm there, I can see why it was pretty difficult. But you also need to have a strategy and a plan. And for the first time, the park has never had an overarching plan of this is what needs to be done, and this is the order that we're going to do it, and these are all the variables. And we've spent the last year, me and my board, of which I have 2 board members here, Jim Tomlin and Stephanie Hill, we've spent a year really deep diving into every little area of the need. And so that's why we know about the $2.5 million of things that must get fixed immediately. We also know about all the enclosures. Laws change because people do things that they shouldn't do at zoos. So the laws have changed for all zoos in terms of the kind of enclosures that we have to build. So we know what needs to be happen, and then we have our dreams of things that we want to happen to bring in more revenue. So the park almost closed in 2009. And then a group of passionate community leaders, including Jim Tomlin, they got the park back from the state. And the park, it became a 501c3 back in 2013 and was really finalized around 2015. So it's been, touch and go since then. I think one of the things that really helped the park was building lodging, which is why we're going to keep building them. And then, marketing, just getting the word out. And leadership. I mean, you guys all run businesses, if you don't have the right leadership, it's not going to go anywhere. So I think that's been a main change. And when I got to the park in November of 2019, I took the job, even though they said, well, we could run out of money in February, and it was November. But I was like, I knew I could go back to Neighborhood House. So I was like, I'll take the challenge. We'll do it. And there were like 6 board members at the time. We now have 22 board members, and the park is doing so much better. And we're just now focused on trying to make this thing happen, which is partly why we know we can build all these revenue streams, and that'll be great. We still have to stay high on donations, but we need an endowment. And that's why we're focused on, if we can build a $10 million endowment, then we know that the park will be there for our children and our grandchildren and their grandchildren. So that's where our focus is. We're trying to get to 2030. That's our goal, 2030.